Hi, my name is Layla, and I am going to be your tutor for today. So today I'm going to be covering a GCSE chemistry lesson. This will usually be your first lesson in your syllabus. We are going to be covering atoms, bonding, and structure, and we're going to be starting from the bare basics about the atomic structure. Okay, so the first question you should always ask yourself is, what is an atom? Okay, so it says over here. An atom, or atoms, apologies, have a central nucleus made up of protons and neutrons around which there are electrons. Okay, let's read the sentence again. Atoms have a small central nucleus, and I've highlighted some keywords. Okay, so atoms have a nucleus made up of protons and neutrons. So inside the nucleus, there is protons and neutrons around which there are electrons. All right? Okay, so we know what an atom is made of, but how are atoms useful, I guess, in our world? Why do we need atoms? Why is it so important for us to learn about atoms? Okay, so atoms make up everything in the world. Everything in the world that you see, whether it's your screen, your laptop right now, whether it's an object, whether it's you, yourself, any object, any being, any living existence, anything is made up of atoms, okay? The air that we breathe in, oxygen, is made up of atoms. Everything is made up of atoms, which is why it's so important to know what an atom is and why do we need it and how much it and what it's made of exactly, and how can we, for example, differentiate it between other atoms, okay? So if you don't know by now, there is something called the periodic table. And in the periodic table, we have all sorts of elements, okay? And all these elements are made of atoms. And in order to understand the periodic table, we must understand what an atom is, okay? So that's a very simple overview of what's an atom and why do we need atoms, okay? But let's really understand how atoms are made, okay? So I've drawn out a diagram for you, and I'm going to be explaining it, but it would be amazing for you guys also to ask any questions or sort of jump in wherever you can. All right. So like I said, atoms have a small central nucleus. So I've drawn out my nucleus here as a small black circle, apologies. And it's made up of protons and neutrons. So just by guessing, which one would you think out of these two shapes would be the protons, and which one would you think would be the neutrons? If you said the positive signs would be protons, then you are correct. Well done. And the way I like to think about it is protons reminds me of positive. They both start with a P, and the plus is a positive sign. So P and P, you're winning. Okay, yes. So the other shape, the triangle which I've drawn, that would be the neutrons. Now, a question that I, for example, would ask, or I'm guessing you guys are also thinking about. Why is it not a negative sign? From anything that we know, from very simple physics, we know that positives attract. So if we're gonna have a positive, sign, then we need a negative sign. So why is a neutron not negative? Well, that's a very good question, which I will explain to you guys. But I'm just gonna write here, positive equals proton. All right, so if we look at what's it called, like these few lines, it says here that a neutron has a relative mass of 1 and it has a relative charge of 0. A proton has a relative mass of 1 and then a relative charge of positive 1. And then an electron has a negligible mass. So, do you know what negligible means? Negligible means it weighs almost nothing. So if you were to put it on a scale, it would probably be 0.00000000000, like millions of zeros, 0.1 gram or something. And then it has a negative, so its relative charge, on the other hand, is -1. Okay, so let's put this on in a table to sort of make it a little bit clearer for us in our heads, all right? So I've drawn out a table for you guys here in advance, and I'm just going to jot down what is sort of written over here, and then I'll explain it to you, okay? So we've said that so I've got NPE, neutron, proton, electron. Don't be worried about this. And then I've got at the top here, I've got relative mass and I've got relative charge. So we've said here the relative mass of a neutron is equal to 1. Okay? And then we've said the relative charge is equal to 0, meaning it has no charge. It's not positive and it's not negative. Okay? The proton, however, also has a relative mass of 1, but it has a relative charge of +1. So it has a positive charge. All right? The electron, on the other hand, has a relative mass of 0, and then it has a relative charge of -1. All right? So let's look at this table for a minute. All right? So we've got the neutron and the proton, which make up the nucleus. Okay? So I'm just gonna write in. Let me choose a different color. Let's choose a red. Right? I'm gonna write here in red. Okay, equals to nucleus, and we're talking about the neutron and the proton. Okay, like the neutron and the proton are the things that make up the nucleus, and they're equal to 1, right? However, the relative charge, so we've got a proton and an electron, and they cancel each other out. So if you have a positive and then you have a negative on the other side, and if they are the same, so you have one positive, one negative, so they cancel out. So this is perfect. This is exactly what we need, right? Because these two cancel out and these two cancel out. Okay? So what we learned, the neutron doesn't have a charge. Its main reason for existence is to have, like, because the nucleus is always a very heavy a molecule. Okay, it's very heavy, and the protons. So the protons are because they're inside the nucleus, they weigh. Okay, and the neutrons are really important for their weight, for their mass. That's one of their essential needs because of how much they weigh. So this is why we have neutrons. They don't, however, have a charge. Okay, and a good way to remember this, and I've written it over here, is neutrons. So the first 5 letters are equal to neutral. Neutral means like equal, like there's no charge. So this is a good way to remember when you're trying to draw out this table, because usually this table brings you a lot of marks. Always remember that when you're thinking of a neutron, it's neutral. It doesn't have a charge. Its only use is because of its mass. And then a proton is very useful because it has because of its mass and because it has a positive charge. And then to cancel it out, we have the electron, which has a negative charge, but it has no mass. It is negligible. But where is the electron found? So I've said the nucleus is only made of protons and electrons. Sorry, protons and neutrons. But the electrons are made up in the outer shell. Okay, in the outer shell, we have the electrons. So you have a nucleus, and then you have shells. You have something called electron shells outside of the nucleus, and that's where the electrons exist. And something to make it easy for you, then when you have the number of protons always think the number of electrons have to be exactly the same because they have to cancel it out. Okay, always think equals. If I have plus 2 here, I need to have minus 2 there. If I have plus 10 here, I need to have minus 10 there. It always has to equal. So if you have 2 here, there has to be 2 outside as well. Okay? So this is just very introductory to what is an atom. If I had more time, I would be discussing, I would go into more detail, and I would make you do your own example. And then afterwards, I would go into electron shells and go into bigger elements and help you figure out how many electrons, and make you draw it out as well, how many electrons there would be equal to. And also I would help you define what a mass number is, what an atomic number is. And yeah, we'd go on to like do a little bit more calculations and stuff. And then yeah, I'd for example just leave you with a complete example, a complete just element, and I'd let you figure it out without me giving you any help until you're satisfied. And then I'd sort of like reveal the answers for you, and we would discuss if you got it correct or not. So yeah, that would be my lesson. Thank you so much for watching, and I cannot wait for my interview. Thank you.